halfway through the year now, so that means it's time for my queue to wrap up. And this is where I round up the last quarter's worth of reading, so the books that I read in April, May and June. I'll give you my stats and then I'll also share my favourites from the quarter. So in total I read 49 books, which was absolutely fantastic. I really picked up my reading pace, particularly in the last 2 months, and in total I made it through 17,214 pages, which was an average of about 189 pages per day, so definitely up on the average from last year, which was around 160 pages per day. I had a very successful reading journey as well, with 3 3-star reads, 6 3.5 stars, 23 4 stars, 12 4.5 stars and 5 5-star reads. And in terms of how I read them, I had 10 ARCs, 4 audiobooks, 11 ebooks, 22 Kindle Unlimited and 2 physical books. And then in terms of the subgenres, I read 8 contemporaries, 5 dark, 2 dystopian, 1 historical, 24 mafia, 8 paranormal and 1 sports romance as well. So like I said, I'm not going to cover everything I read, but I am going to go through all my 5-star reads, which I had 5. And then at the end, I've got a couple of honourable mentions as well, things that I just wanted to give a shout out to, even though they weren't quite 5-star reads. So the first 5-star that I had for the quarter was The Brit by Jodi Malpas, and this is book 1 in her Unlawful Men series. It's a mafia romance and it's an age gap, captive, hidden identity, with a hero and heroine that have both suffered trauma in the past with some PTSD. Then we've got a scarred hero and heroine, touch it and die vibes, and we're following Danny and Rose. So as an aside, by the time this video goes up, I will have actually met Jodi Malpas, because she is appearing at the Rare 25 London sign-in next weekend, and I have actually pre-ordered The Brit, so I'll have a physical copy of this book in my possession as well. So I'll look forward to sharing that with you when I do my haul video following the book signing. I absolutely love this one. This one had been on my TBR for a very long time, but I kind of put off reading it, and I'm not 100% sure why, but I finally decided it was time to give this one a go, and I'm so glad I picked it up. It was quite a difficult read. It wasn't a fun, kind of unhinged wild ride that I prefer with mafia romances. This one was much more serious, and as a result the content matter was much more serious. It felt much heavier to read, and it definitely covered quite a lot of serious trauma that both of our characters had went through, and basically some of the things they also need to go through in order to get their HEA. So it was undeniably brilliantly written, well thought out, fantastic plot, deserved every star that I gave this one, but not necessarily a feel good read. This one had heavy subject matter. So as I was saying, we were following Danny and Rose, and at the very start of this book we kind of get a point of view chapter from each of these characters from their past, which really sets up and tells us exactly who these characters are and the type of trauma that they've experienced before then we encounter them in kind of current times and how they're going to meet each other for the first time. On Danny's side of the story, we find out that he came from quite a poor home. His mother left him alone with his stepfather, and his stepfather was an extremely abusive man and did not look after Danny at all. Danny therefore had ill-fitting clothes that needed to be washed. He didn't always have enough to eat, so he was often found scavenging in bins, and as a result he was extremely bullied by the local kids, so much so that they actually took a knife to his face, and now he has a scar. What we find out though is that while Danny is in a kind of an alleyway one day, this man runs into the alley and he's chased by this car. Somebody gets out of the vehicle and the man that was running is unalived. So he's kind of witness to a crime at the start of this book. But the man who's gotten out of this car to commit this crime, as soon as Danny sees him, Danny is in awe of this guy. He's extremely well put together, extremely well dressed, very expensive shoes, and he commands a present. And Danny is instantly taken with this guy, and although he's witnessed a crime, it's not the first bad thing that he's seen in his life, and he's very impressed by him. And this guy takes notice of Danny and realises that Danny is not being well looked after. He also is aware that some local boys are bullying him, and so he helps Danny take retribution and also frees him from his stepfather and takes him under his wing, and in fact puts him in the car and takes him back to the States with him, because this interaction takes place in Britain, and the guy takes him back to the States with him, and he becomes this man's heir, and it turns out that this man is head of this mafia family. And so Danny is very much trained and brought up by this guy to ultimately become the head of this family once this guy passes away. And so Danny and this man have a very, very strong connection. Danny absolutely loves him, is completely loyal to him, and then we see in kind of current time, this man is now on his deathbed, and he you know, leaves his entire fortune, in his inheritance, his family, his territory, to Danny. And so now he is head of this mafia family. Meanwhile, Rose is a foster kid. She's grown up in foster care, and she ended up in a home for children. She is lured away by the promise of a better life, but is instead taken into a form of kind of sex slavery. Worse than that, she's taken into this kind of like breeding program where they're going to breed women, make them have children, and then give these children away. And so they're selling these children on the black market to wealthy people, wealthy couples who can't have children of their own and can't adopt either. And so Rose finds herself in this horrific situation, and when she is nearly ready to give birth, she makes an attempt to run away but is caught. She's severely injured, but she's also gone into labour, and ultimately she is forced to give her baby away. But the birth does not go smoothly, and she's also left in a situation where she's now unable to have more children in the future, and therefore she becomes useless to the man who essentially owns her, and instead she's sold to another man who is going to use her body in other ways. She's a very, very beautiful woman, and he is going to own her and force her to seduce men in order for him to be able to blackmail them and get information out of them, that sort of thing. So this is Rose's story, and this is how Rose then and Danny first meet, because Rose has been instructed to seduce a man who is a mayor. He's running for sort of public office, and she is going to become his mistress. Of course, this is going to be used as blackmail against this guy, because what everyone is after is a piece of land which is part of the dockyards, and of course being able to own the docks means that they can get shipments in and out, right? So this is how they're going to get their illegal items in and out of the country. And so the owner, Rosie's owner, wants to stop Danny getting his hands on it, and Danny is doing this deal with this politician. And so when things start to go awry, it looks like Danny is not going to get this bit of land. He doesn't know why, but definitely someone is meddling. He decides to take it up with the guy. That's when he first finds Rose, that she is this guy's mistress, and then he kind of takes her captive in order to use her as leverage against this guy. And then their relationship very much goes from there. Another 5-star read from the quarter was Hunger in His Blood by Zoey Draven. This is book 3 in the Brides of Kai Law series. It's a paranormal / sci-fi romance, very angsty. This couple are in close proximity, they're fated mates. They have a sex deal, a surprise baby, and a virgin heroine to start as well. I absolutely love Zoey Draven's writing. She does such a great job of really making you believe the love between a couple, and she does a really, really good job of making you feel all the angst and also the pining between couples as well. And that's what I love most about her writing and the characters that she kind of creates. In this one, we're following Lothaire and Irina, and Lothaire is a kind of a vampire berserker hybrid. He's humanoid, but he has wings. His species can sort of fly, and they also are searching for fated mates, because if they find their fated mates, their blood mate really, that means that basically when they drink the blood of their mate, they become exceptionally strong and powerful. His 2 brothers have recently found their mates, and he's kind of looking for his, but he doesn't really want anything permanent or long term, and he very much believes that being romantically involved with someone, being in love with someone, would very much kind of weaken him as an individual, weaken his position of power. So he's not really looking for love as such. However, unbeknownst to him, one of his maids in his household is his blood mate, his fated mate. And this basically means that he's now in close proximity with his mate. He doesn't actually know it's her, but because he's so close physically to her, his body starts to react. So his sex drive, his libido definitely increases, and he tries to ease this by being with other women, and of course nothing really is working, and he's getting a bit maddened, a bit stressed by this situation, until eventually he bumps into the maid in his household and suddenly realizes that she is his blood mate. Now, he doesn't want to start a relationship with her, like I've said, so he doesn't actually tell her that she is in fact his fated mate. Instead, he offers her a bit of a sex deal to be his permanent mistress, and in return for being able to drink her blood, he's going to make sure that she's no longer a maid. He puts her up in the rooms, you know, really takes care of her. And we know that our heroine has always been madly in love with him. She's got a very big crush on him, and so of course at first she agrees. But he's very hard with her, very cold and unfeeling, and while they have moments of connection while they are having sex and drinking and he's drinking her blood, he then very much is very cold to her, pushes her away, doesn't treat her very well between meetings, shall we say. Then she finds out that she is pregnant and decides that she can stand to this no more, and she very much runs away and she goes in search of her brother. When she leaves him, he realizes his mistake and that he really shouldn't have pushed her away, and he kind of goes into a tailspin, becomes very depressed, and he starts to look for her, and because he really needs to bring her back and apologize for what he's done. Meanwhile, she decides that she's going to write him a letter to let her know that she is with child, in the hope that he's going to come and get her or allow her to come home. But this letter is intercepted by someone who wishes them both ill, and so this letter never reaches him, and she very much then believes that he doesn't want anything to do with her or the baby, and he thinks obviously she's run away, but ultimately he is going to track her down and try and bring her back to his home and try and do the grovelling that is needed in order for them to get their HEA. Like I said, I absolutely love this one, and I absolutely loved how Zoey Draven makes us really feel for this couple, but also feel the angst and the pining between them as well. Next up, we've got another mafia romance, which was Be With Me by Gabrielle Sanz, and this is book 1 in the House of Ferrero series. This is an Italian mafia romance between Romolo and Mia, and in this one we definitely have a damaged hero, enemies to lovers, a fairy tale retelling, a Romeo and Juliet retelling in fact, and an obsessed hero. Mia is part of a friendship group, and one of her friends is in fact in a mafia family and arranged a marriage to Romolo's brother. She has hidden this information from Mia, so although they've went to college together, they've spent time together, she's never really revealed this information to Mia, because one, she wants to protect her friend, but also she doesn't want Mia to think less of her. And so of course when they finish college and they all go home, and her friend is now arranged in marriage to Romolo's brother, like I've said, she very much kind of distances herself from Mia, and Mia is a bit suspicious about what's going on. Why has her friend stopped contacting her? She hears about this engagement and the engagement party. It's a bit miffed she's not been invited, and she decides that she's gonna go and turn up. When she gets there, she's intercepted by her friend, who's like, what the hell are you doing here? You've put yourself in a lot of danger. Come and hide with me in a bedroom. I'll call you a taxi. Let's get you out of here. Mia is like, no, I'm not leaving without you explaining what's going on. And so Mia explains to her that she is part of a mafia family and that this is an arranged marriage. And not only that, but she is going to be married to one of the Ferreros, and the Ferreros are a criminal family obviously, but the arch enemy of Mia's father, because Mia's father is a politician. He really wants to get rid of the bad elements in town. He's running for a position in the White House, and his sole campaign is around bringing the Ferreros down, proving that they're criminals and putting them away. And so the Ferreros absolutely hate Mia's father, and so if they find out that she's there at this engagement party, it could put Mia in a lot of danger. So her friend basically says, wait here, I'll go and get a taxi, and then you can leave before anyone realises you're here. Of course, while she's waiting in the bedroom, who should come in but Romolo? He's actually coming in with another woman, but he's putting this woman off, and then he realises that Mia is also in the room and kind of been spying on him, and they have this bit of a meet cute. Romolo thinks that she feels familiar to him but can't quite place who it is, Eventually though, she does escapes and leaves him, and it's only later when he's watching the TV, sees her father on the telly, he realises who she was. Now, we also find out that Romolo's role in this family is very much as the seducer, the ladies' man, the man with information, and part of his role is to seduce women, either to use that as blackmail or to uncover secrets, and he's the information, like the secret keeper kind of guy, so that his family can blackmail people into doing whatever they want. So his mother sets him a task to seduce Mia so they can get some dirt on her father and try and stop him from bringing their family down. And so this is the setup for this story. But of course, there's much more to this than meets the eye. And Gabrielle Sands has done a really good job here of setting up the storyline for this series, the characters for this series. So we get a really good sense of Ferrero's family and his brothers. And also their mother becomes the villain of this story as well, because we find out a lot more about the mother, how she's treated her sons, and in particular how she's treated Romolo, and it's really, really traumatized him. So something that happened to him when he was just a young man, just turned 18, is very, very traumatizing for him, and his mother was very much responsible, didn't sympathize with him at all, and clearly treated him in a very unforgiving manner, which has really, really traumatized Romolo and really shaped him into who he is. And he suffers from quite a lot of PTSD, from a lot of guilt, but also doesn't really think he's worthy of being loved either. Mia very much sees something in Romolo. She very much feels a connection, a pull with him, and they develop this really interesting relationship where clearly he's hiding something from her. He's ultimately planning to use her, but they get very, very close, and Mia really starts to see who he really is and starts to fall for him. Like I said, it's this Romeo and Juliet kind of loose retelling, so obviously they're star-crossed lovers and things are not going to go smoothly for them, but ultimately they do get their HEA. The same month that I read Be With Me, I read Born for Lace by Nicci Harris, and I absolutely loved this one. This was another 5-star read for me. This one is book 2 in the Cradled Commons series, which is very much a dystopian, dark romance, and Nicci Harris has built a really kind of rich, wonderful world with this one, set about 1,000 years in our future, where due to climate change and some other natural disasters and other things that humans have done to the planet, we're living in a very different society than the one we know from today. We've also now have the Gen Z, which are these modified humans. They're genetically modified to be bigger, stronger, more enhanced, to be able to withstand the new kind of like environment that we find ourselves in, and are much more robust, shall we say. However, they're much larger in size than humans, and they are kind of now the ruling classes, because in this society there are kind of 2 main classes, if you like, one the crown and one the trade. And the crown are made up of the Gen Z and other people close to them who kind of rule society, keep things in order. And then you've got people in the trade, the rest of the humans who live in this community, and they agree from birth, a trade is assigned to them, and they agree that they're going to fulfill their duty to the state, perform this particular task that they've been set, and in return the state will provide for them and look after them. Outside of this society, of course, there's going to be humans that have gone against this and they don't want this, they don't want to be part of this, so they've tried to make their own communities outside of the cradle. And there's also humans that have been experimented on or genetically modified, where the experiments went wrong, and so there are kind of like more deformed humans, shall we say. I don't want to really call them deformed, but they didn't come out quite so well in the experiments, so people are afraid of them, and some of them, these creatures now, let's call them, are definitely not good. So our hero in this one is Lagos, and he is one of the modified humans. He's a Gen D, and we find out that he is a specific type of Gen D, and he's essentially an assassin. However, he's been able to escape society, and now he works with a friend of his to kind of take people who want to leave the society and take them to a safe place. Our heroine, on the other hand, Dahlia, she is what they call a lace girl, and a lace girl is one of the trade, and it's their job to please a man. So she's there to bring a man comfort. She's been assigned to a man, to a human who's carrying out his trade, and not only is she supposed to be a comfort, but she's supposed to remain pure and innocent. So How the system works is that they'll drink a tea. So she'll drink a tea before she goes to bed, and then the person who owns her can do whatever they like with her while she's asleep, brings him comfort, and then in the morning she has no recollection of what happened and therefore keeps her pure and innocent. Unbeknownst to Dahlia though, her chosen man has chosen not to sleep with her, and therefore she remains a virgin, which Lagos is going to find out later in this story. At the start of this book, Dahlia has a friend, a best friend, who's actually got pregnant by Jodi. She is not able to carry this baby to term, and so she ends up dying in childbirth. She makes Dahlia promise to take the baby and take the baby to safety, and her friend has pre-agreed with Lagos and his friend to take them to safety. And so as soon as her friend dies, she takes the baby and she goes and seeks out Lagos, and then she has to go on a bit of a road trip with Lagos and his friend to get to this safe place. Lagos isn't too welcoming at first. He's, you know, he's brute, he's big, he's brutish, and he doesn't come across very friendly. His friend on the other hand though is much more approachable, treats her really well, makes sure that she's looked after, but slowly and surely over time she forms this connection with Lagos, and he has to admit that he does have feelings for her. Of course it's going to become very difficult, and as we travel along here we encounter other people, other communities, and as their feelings develop for each other and they start to have a relationship, we ultimately know that they're going to have to make some very tough decisions, because when they finally get to their place where they're taking her to, it's a place that Lagos cannot stay. And so they need to make some decisions about what's going to happen in their future. But ultimately their main priority is making sure that this baby gets to safety. I absolutely love this one. I love Nicci Harris's writing. I think she's done a great job with this world, and I particularly like this one even more than the first book in this series because of the pining between this couple. I really felt for them. I was heartbroken for them when they ended up having to separate, and it really pulled at the heartstrings, it really did. And I was so invested in this couple and hoping that they would find a way to be together, and I really liked how Nicci Harris solved that problem for us. So great read overall, and if you like dark dystopian romances, I highly recommend definitely start from book 1. Okay, so the last 5-star read of the quarter was Sicko by Amo Jones, and this is another very dark romance indeed with lots of heavy content and trigger warnings, so please check those out before you dive into this one. This is a standalone romance. Like I said, it is a dark romance. It's also an MC romance. Lots of trigger warnings in here, some BDSM, non-consent, sexual assault of the heroine, not by the hero, a damaged hero and heroine. These two are step siblings, so it's definitely a taboo romance, forbidden romance, but he's absolutely obsessed with her, over the top, possessive, and later in the story we have some sex club elements to this one and a bit of a time jump as well, and we were following Royce and Jade. So Royce's parents adopted Jade when she was a baby. Royce is 3 years older than Jade, but ever since she was brought into his home he's been utterly obsessed with her and very protective of her. They became fast friends, always together, and she is always with his friendship group as well. But of course they mean more to each other than just brother and sister, and as they grow older they're going to become sexually attracted to each other as well. When Royce turns 18, Jade is obviously only 15 years old at this point, and he and his friends are due to go away to college. But before he goes, he's obviously going to spend a final summer at home, and they're planning to spend the summer together obviously. However, something happens one night and he ends up leaving town and completely disappearing, and he's just gone without any explanation, any word or any promises of coming back. And Jade is absolutely heartbroken by this, but also feeling very betrayed by this as well. Of course, he's always been her protector throughout her whole life, and as soon as he's gone, she finds herself in a very vulnerable situation, and a man climbs into her bedroom one night and sexually assaults her. This continues night after night for the next 3 years, and this man has groomed her to be his submissive essentially, and this is not consensual at all. She's in this very difficult situation, and she's kind of given up all hope. She's given up all hope that Royce will ever come back, and she's given up all hope that she'll ever get herself out of this situation. When she does turn 18 though, she is ready to go off to college, and this is a hope that the abuse will end at the hand of this man, but in fact it doesn't, and he follows her to college, and so she has to continue to do what he says. She goes to college in LA, and this is the same place where Royce has found himself ended up in, because what we then learn about Royce is that in the last 3 years there was very much a reason why he had to leave town, and he has joined this biker gang and is now the VP of this C club. Now she's in LA, it's the same place where his biker club is, and so he comes back into her life and he starts to become very possessive and protective of her once more. Of course, now she's very angry with him. She's full of rage. She's like, you don't have any say over my life. What are you doing here? I don't see why I need to do what you say. But Royce is not going to have any of it, and he kind of brings her into the fold, if you like. She ends up having to come to the clubhouse and deal with the club whores and also some of the old ladies as well. And all the time, obviously, she is keeping this secret from him, and he clearly has secrets of his own as well. I just absolutely love this one. Amo Jones keeps us guessing throughout. There's so many twists and turns, and while I did guess some of it, so I did have some thoughts on this one as I went through, and while I did guess some of the plot twists, I didn't guess them all, that's for sure. So I thoroughly enjoyed this read. It was fascinating to read, but like I say, it did have some very, very dark and heavy content in this one. Not for the faint of heart, so definitely check your trigger warnings before you pick it up, but definitely one of the best dark romances that I've read in quite some time. So there we go, there are all the 5-star reads that I read in the second quarter. But I did also want to talk about some honourable mentions as well. So first of all, I wanted to mention Lothaire by Kresley, which is book 12 in the Immortals After Dark series. I've literally just finished reading this one. This is the last book that I officially read at the end of June, and I have done a live show with Amber from Amber Reads Romance and Jen from the Book Refuge where we discussed this book in detail. So if you didn't see that live show, I highly recommend you visit Amber's channel and go and check that one out. I've put it in the description box down below. But throughout this whole year, I've been doing the read along with Amber, and I've been reading pretty much 1 or 2 books from Immortals After Dark every single month. And finally we're at Lothaire's book, which is the one that I've been waiting for because I know it was Jen's favourite. Lots of people absolutely love this one. And Lothaire is a vampire. He's the enemy of old, and he has played quite a pivotal role in quite a few of the books in this series. At first we saw it just a cameo, just a flash of him, and as the series has gone on, he's played more and more of a pivotal role. In fact, he played quite a large role in book 11, and finally in this book we finally get his story, his origin story if you like, and also his romance. So I wanted to give a shout out to that one as well because I rated it 4.5 stars, rounded up to 5 on Goodreads, and this has been the best one that I've read in the Immortals After Dark series so far. But this series overall is absolutely a 5-star series because of all of the characters. The cast of characters are absolutely wonderful. So while each of the books themselves I've only really rated 4 stars up to this point, overall I think it's a 5-star series just because of the cast of characters and the depth of the world building that Kresley has done. I just really love spending time with these characters. Another series that I've absolutely been loving, and I wanted to give a shout out to this as well, is the Checkmate series by Emilia Finn. Now I really think that Emilia Finn is a really underrated author. She's an Australian author and does have quite a large fan base, and she's written 70+ books so far in her career, but I don't really hear many booktubers talk about her or any bookstagrammers talk about her, certainly not in the people that I subscribe to. And if you haven't read anything by her, I really encourage you to check her out. Now she does have quite a big backlist, like I said, more than 70 books, so her backlist can be quite intimidating, particularly as most of her series really spin off from her original series called the Rolling On series, which features a family called the Kincaids, who are all MMA fighters. They're championship fighters and they own a gym in this particular small town. After that, she did another series that spun off from there, which featured sort of police and emergency service workers in the same town as the Rollers. And then this third series that she wrote is the Checkmate series, which again spins off and happens in the same town. So we get cameo appearances from all of the characters we've seen in series 1 and 2, and now we're making our way through series 3, which is Checkmate series. After that, There's Next Gen series and other things written by Emilia Finn, and quite a lot of them are connected, and you see connected characters throughout her stories as well. But I've been really loving the Checkmate series. Book 1 in the series I read actually in 2021. It was my favourite book of that year. The main hero in that one is a guy called Kane Bishop. That book, really you have to go in blind on that one, but it's hard not to figure out what's going on because of all the other books around this one. But I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much that I read it twice in a row, and I recently reread that one as well. And I really wanted to carry on with that series, but because they're so interconnected with the other series, I decided I wanted to go back to the start and read Emilia's back list up until that point. I absolutely love series 1, so definitely recommend that. And series 2 was good, but I didn't love it as much. And towards the end of that series, I really struggled. The last 2 books were a duet. I'm not great with duets, about the same couple, and I decided to just skip it. I was really, like, that was a stumbling block for me. I really wasn't interested in reading their story, and so I wasn't picking it up. And more recently I decided, you know what, let's just skip it. You can always go back to it later, but let's just carry on with the Checkmate series because you loved it so much. And so in the course of the last couple of weeks, I read books 2, 3 and 4 in that series, and I've absolutely loved them. So I wanted to give a shout out to that series, to this author and to those books. To find out more about them, check out my monthly reading wrap up because I covered all of those off in the month of June. If you don't want to watch that whole video, that's fine. It's a really long video, but there's timestamps in that one, so you can skip to those books if you particularly want to hear more about those. And the last shout out is actually an historical romance called The Beast Takes a Bride by Julie Anne Long. Now, I'm not a massive fan of historicals. I do try them out from time to time if I've heard one that's been really, really good, but I don't always love them. However, this one was recommended by Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. I pulled it out from my jar where I keep 12 recs from 12 booktubers. I pull one out every month. I really wanted to read this one because this one was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I absolutely loved it. Rated it 4.5 stars, but loved every minute. It was such a fun read. It was written in a quite an unusual style, and we had POVs from other characters in this one as well. But I absolutely thought it was fantastic. And follow the story of Alexandra and Magnus. Magnus is our Beast character. He is a war hero. He is very senior in the military. He is about to earn a knighthood from the crown and become a lord for his work in the military. But as a result of his service, he has been left scarred. Our heroine, on the other hand, is very, very beautiful. She's young and her father is in need of money. So Magnus kind of pays off the father to be able to marry Alexandra, and so they do get married. And Alexandra is, she doesn't put up a fight. She's happy to marry Magnus, but she's keeping a secret of her own because she does have a childhood sweetheart, a guy that she believes that she has great feelings for. And on the day that she gets married, she happens to see this boy for the final time. She's going to say goodbye to him, but they end up sharing a kiss, and Magnus sees this and feels utterly betrayed, very, very angry, and from there he kind of goes back to military life. He actually goes abroad, he puts her up in his house, he pays all of her bills and everything, but they are then estranged for about 5 years. And at the start of this book, our heroine Alexandra has been taken into custody by the police for stealing a carriage that her and her cousin have stolen so they can go to the opera, and as such she's been kind of taken into custody and has kind of been put behind bars for the night. And Magnus hears of this and he happens to be back in town, and he kind of comes to bail her out, and he's absolutely livid that she would dare to do something like this and potentially ruin his reputation and destroy his chances of becoming a lord. And so he does her a bit of a deal and says, look, I know we've been estranged, but I really want my lordship. I really want to be knighted. So let's do a deal. Let's live together for the next couple of weeks. We'll go out into society, pretend everything's well between us, and put on a good show. And at the end of that time, once I've received my knighthood, once I've become a lord, I will pack you off to the United States and give you all the money you need, and we'll never see each other again. And so she agrees to this deal. And of course, as they spend time together over the course of the next couple of weeks, they are going to realise that they have feelings for each other, and our heroine is going to work hard to seek forgiveness from Magnus for what she's done in the past and hope that Magnus can forgive her. So like I say, I really enjoyed this one. if you haven't read it yet, but you like historicals, then I definitely recommend. And even if you don't like historicals that much like me, then give this one a try, because I absolutely loved it. It was absolutely a delightful read and would definitely recommend. Okay, so there we go. That is my roundup for the last quarter. There are all my 5-star reads plus a few honourable mentions as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.